Greetings, subscribers! A new TV series called Superman and Lois is now being made, which will star Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Tulloch in the title roles. This will be a spin-off of the Supergirl TV show currently running on the CW, which has already introduced these characters as guests. Sure, there have been plenty of other Superman TV shows in the past, but this one will be offering something no Superman show has done before. It will show Superman and Lois as parents to their two sons, Jonathan and Jordan. So that should be interesting. Smallville focused on Clark Kent as a teenager, as no movie or TV show had done before, and Krypton focused on Clark's grandfather on Krypton, as no movie or TV show had done before. And now, this upcoming show will focus on Superman and Lois in another way which has never been seen in live action before. Unless you want to count that 2006 movie Superman Returns, which included a biological son Superman had with Lois, but personally, I'd rather not remember that movie. Anyway, I'm very curious to see what the writers and producers do with this new show, despite the fact that I know very little about it. But as a Superman fan, I can't help having things I hope to see on the show. Maybe the show will include them, or maybe not. Or maybe they'll include other good ideas which I'm not even thinking of. But anyway, today I'd just like to list 5 of those things I hope to see, and when the show finally comes out, it'll be fun to look back and see just how close or far off I am. Or who knows, maybe someone working on the show will even see this video and decide to use one of my ideas. Before I begin my list, let me just clarify that obviously it goes without saying I hope to see good writing, good acting, chemistry, and all that stuff. But anyway, I'd like to begin my list. Here are my top 5 things I'd like to see on Superman and Lois. Number 5. Have the older Jonathan Kent, Clark's father, still alive. I think the relationship between Clark Kent and his father Jonathan has been really special in both comics and TV shows, and I'd hate to see the show just skip it. Many people who saw Jonathan die in the 1978 movie just assume it's always that way in the comics and it has to be repeated in every version, but not so. There are lots of versions where Jonathan does live to see Clark become an adult and still offer him fatherly advice. And there's no reason this show can't include that. I'd love to see Jonathan give wise fatherly advice to both his son Clark and his 2 grandsons, Jordan and Jonathan. Would it be confusing to have 2 different characters both named Jonathan? Yes, but I think that can be worked out. Maybe the older Jonathan can only be referred to as Pa Kent. As an unconnected side note, I'll quickly mention that there was a 1986 horror movie called Troll, in which one of the main characters was a boy named Harry Potter Jr. and his father Harry Potter Sr. This was long before the J.K. Rowling books and Daniel Radcliffe films. Those are completely unconnected to this movie Troll. The name Harry Potter is just coincidental. But my real point is, it worked fine in Troll to have 2 different characters both named Harry Potter, and I'm sure this show Superman and Lois could have 2 characters both named Jonathan Kent and find a way to make it work. Number 4. Use more of that same gorgeous farm location used for the TV show Smallville. On Season 5's 9th episode of The Flash, part of the crossover Elseworlds, they already showed us the Kent farm which this Earth Superman grew up on, and they used the same location from the show Smallville. And I hope to see more of that farm location on the show Superman and Lois. Although this won't be enough to make a whole show good, or even one episode, I still think of it as a real plus because it adds an element of realism to the show. The later seasons of Smallville tended to show us scenes inside the barn, which I could clearly recognize as a studio set. But for the earlier seasons, they tend to have a lot more scenes filmed on a real farm location, which I felt added something to the show. Look, audiences often appreciate a lot of slice-of-life movies, which show us real locations in poor city neighborhoods. And personally, I also appreciate seeing the real location of an old-school farm. And if we're going to see Superman, Lois, and the 2 sons visit the Kent farm and see them talk to Jonathan and Martha, as I already mentioned I hope to see, then I'd really much rather see these conversations take place in real farm scenery than in a studio built to look like a barn's inside. Number 3. More Superman veteran actors as guests. Smallville did a lot of that and it was always fun. Now Supergirl has been doing a lot of that and it's been equally as fun. So I hope to see the Superman and Lois show use it as well. But what I personally think would be most fun would be to use Superman veteran actors who have not been used in that way before. Not that I have anything against Helen Slater, Dean Cain, Mark McClure, etc. I'd rather see actors like Gerard Christopher, John Hames Newton, and Stacey Hayduk from the 1980s Superboy TV show, or Lucas Grabeel, who was on Smallville first as young Lex Luthor in flashbacks, and then later played the role of Connor Kent's Superboy, the clone made of 50% of Superman's DNA and 50% of Lex Luthor's DNA. I think he would be a fun guest to see on the show. And also Jeff East, who played teenage Clark Kent in the 1978 movie, I'd really like to see included as a guest. When you look at him today, he's changed a lot over the years. But I actually think he now looks like he could potentially be a good fit for the part of Jonathan Kent. And that would feel really full circle to see the actor we once saw playing the confused teenage Clark Kent, now still living on the Kent farm giving mentor advice to his son Superman and his grandchildren. Number 2, flashbacks. I admittedly have a soft spot in my heart for seeing Clark as a kid in Smallville, but I think if the show is going to be about Clark being a parent to 2 kids, then it'd be fun to see him constantly have flashbacks to when he was that age, and use those experiences for how he now acts as a parent to his 2 sons. I'm remembering the TV series Kung Fu, in which the main character Kwai Chang Caine would have a flashback every episode to when he was a kid. I really enjoyed that there, and I would also love to see something like it here. And finally, number 1. Superman villains from the comics who have never been seen in live action before. Looking back at shows like Superboy and later Smallville, seems like all these villains have already been seen at some time in some way. But not so. In 82 years of Superman's existence in comic books, there really are quite a few villains who have never been seen in live action. Sure, it requires some research for the writers to bring them on the show, but if the writers and producers are not willing to do any comic book research, then plain and simple, they should not have this job. Okay, so as a Superman fan curious to see what they do with this show, these are my initial thoughts of 5 things I'm hoping to see. But who knows what these writers are thinking of, which I'm not. I look forward to finding out. And as always, I'd like to hear some feedback from you viewers. Do you like my ideas? Dislike them? Or do you have other ideas for what you hope to see on the show? Please leave it all in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more of my videos, then please feel free to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell. I would love to have you. Thank you.